everyone, welcome to Recruit Tea. I'm your host Emily Furbank and we're going to be spilling the tea on the good, the bad and the ugly of the recruitment industry. I'm going to be joined by an array of different people with various different backgrounds so we can get their point of view on what makes a real successful recruitment business. Come and join me for some tea. So thank you for joining us on Recruit Tea, taking the time to join us, Edmund. We are all about spilling the tea and having a cup of tea as well. So usually I would ask people what would they like to drink and how they take their tea or the coffee. So what's your setup? Are you a tea drinker, a coffee drinker? How do you normally take it?
I'm basically a reluctant coffee drinker. So
Why
usually
reluctant?
I don't really like coffee. So I'm quite an easy person to make a cup of tea or coffee for because coffee is usually what it is for pure kind of staying awake, staying focused. I'm not particularly fond of the taste of it, so I'm incredibly unpicky. Black coffee, no sugar, no milk.
That's
That's it.
quite a bold way to have a coffee for someone that doesn't particularly like the taste.
Just get it out of the way. Done. Easy.
So I had to force myself to like coffee as well. When I started working, I worked in London for a short while, and I had to force myself to like coffee so then I could like stay awake and keep upbeat with like the rhythm of London. But now I actually quite like it. Like I've taught myself to like it, but I've got to have syrups and all sorts and flavored milks and everything in there to make
The
it
less
okay.
it tastes of coffee, the better for everybody
Yeah,
involved.
exactly. As
Yeah,
long as
for
there's
sure.
the caffeine of the coffee, then I'm all good. Um, no, anyway, so I would usually be making you a black coffee, cool. So we'll start off. What I kind of want to understand first, obviously, we work with you very closely, Orbition, so we know kind of what you do and what you have to offer to a recruitment business. But I'd love to hear kind of more about yourself, your career, what led you to setting up RecruitHub, and kind of what services and solutions you do offer.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, my early career was basically involved in building a recruitment business. So I was involved in that for probably about 8 years, across the UK, and Europe and in the US. And basically, kind of the origin story for RecruitHub is that we were very very much aware that there is a sort of large volume of startup recruitment agencies, many of whom go out to build a business completely from scratch. And there's just a monumental kind of inefficiency across every bit of that. You have basically founders who are usually really talented recruiters, really, really strong and incredibly kind of effective at building customer relationships, building revenue streams, training and coaching other recruiters in their teams. And they are suddenly surrounded by a kind of huge universe of stuff that is distracting, that is outside of their wheelhouse, most of which doesn't really directly drive any revenue. Where historically, founders would have spent kind of up to 40% of their time in a sort of array of different things that they kind of grapple with, all of which are kind of required for the business to run, but take away significantly from their ability to drive revenue. So we basically provide an accelerator platform where all of that is bundled together: the technology stack, the back office, the brand, advisory piece, resources that sort of enable businesses and business founders to focus and double down on the bit that they're strongest at, which is, as well as kind of their skill set, the bit that most impactfully kind of drives their business performance. So that's
Yeah.
where we came from.
Okay. So obviously it's clearly something that's very much impactful, whether it's a recruitment business or not, I suppose, in a sense. Um, so if someone was going to set up a recruitment business, um, and from kind of your point of view, how have you seen, say, your business evolve from the traditional recruitment, that transactional recruitment years ago that is the standard, to all the offerings that recruitment businesses now can offer as well? How has your business been able to evolve and develop alongside with how recruitment's evolved as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess, probably the biggest area that we've been able to support our customers in that transition has been helping them to, I guess probably twofold. It's one, helping them to understand what are the different types of offerings, productization of recruitment services, and
Yeah,
ultimately kind of pulling back the curtain, so that they can see, right, this is actually how other businesses are delivering these services and adding more value to the process. So first of all, it's an educational piece. If recruiters have come from a background where they think, well, we just kind of chase contingent work, everything we do is kind of on a no win, no fee basis. We're often sort of
mm,
racing or scrapping against other agencies and possibly even internal teams who are trying to not pay us for the work that we're trying to do. If that's their background, there's often kind of a big gap between their understanding of what recruitment can actually be, and they tend to look at the sort of complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is usually executive search, and think
yeah,
that's a whole new universe that I don't understand. I don't know how they do what they do. I don't know what their contracts look like. I don't know how they pitch this. I don't know how they price this. And so they stay in their lane and they just sort of muddle along with quite often low quality work, low fill rates,
yeah,
and that's kind of there's a lot of issues there, obviously. So one of the things is helping them to understand how they can actually deliver and describe and then ultimately sell and price a service that is materially different from that kind of very sort of scrappy end of the market. And then the second thing obviously is giving them the templates, whether it be
yeah,
contracts or whether it be sort of pitch materials that help them to be able to, okay, I can articulate this now, I've got stuff that helps kind of substantiate my pitch, and at the end of the day, if somebody actually wants to buy this from me, I've got the relevant contractual documentation to actually be able to put it in place and sign it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the key thing I think that we've seen a lot of is that a lot of our customers, that they are they're super high quality recruiters. So in many ways, a lot of what they are doing for their customers, the reason they're successful is because their processes are really strong. They are very thorough. They're genuinely expert in a particular market. But what some of them have never done is been able to translate that through into saying, well, this is actually materially a different experience for you as a customer from somebody else who called you up yesterday, who doesn't really know what they're doing, who isn't a specialist, who's just chancing it, hasn't got much of a structure or process, can't really give you any level of service sort of guarantees. There is a big difference here. Historically,
yeah,
that's kind of all been invisible. It's been hidden, and being able to just actually better sort of kind of clarify what the difference is enormous. And once you get good at that and you get kind of consistent in doing that, then obviously your relationships with your clients increase in quality, your kind of retention rates spike, and there's 1,000 benefits that come from it.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, one of the things that I noticed, especially working at Orbition, there are tools and tech stacks that I've never even come across in my kind of 6 years of working in recruitment. So, like, admittedly, I'll put my hands up and say I've never come across Sourcebreaker, I've never come across Source Whale. So, what are these kind of underrated solutions that are out there that people aren't even aware about or perhaps aren't using correctly to their benefit?
Yeah, and I guess it's evolving really quickly as well. So kind of access to data
Mm,
is the key thing. It's, I guess, slightly ironic given what you guys do, but it is all about data. But it's also it's not just about having access to data. It's about being able to action the data well. So I think one of the big issues historically in recruitment technology has been there's a lot of information publicly available. Being able to view it at the right time has been a challenge for people unless they're doing a lot of manual stuff and they're very, very diligent, staying on top of running manual processes regularly.
yeah,
New technology can kind of surface when there are sort of triggers within your market, when people are changing jobs, when companies are raising money, when companies are posting vacancies, when vacancies have reached a certain age and are still live and are clearly not being filled. There's 1,000 kind of, there's very obvious ones, but there's loads of data points out there that give you a bit of a view from the outside in terms of where opportunity might be for your services to be applicable and relevant. And a lot of businesses don't have that whatsoever. They've got zero process around that. So
yeah,
that becomes this horrendous, let's do 100 dials a day, blindly trying to feel out who might need some services,
going
which is
on. Yeah,
yeah, which is I guess it works, but it's like throwing 100 darts at a dartboard instead of getting better at your finding what you're trying to actually land on. You've then got the second piece, which is kind of actioning the data. So like the traditional process has been go find whatever your methodology is, the opportunity, then go find the people associated with the opportunity, which in some cases is still a super manual process, then go and find contact information for those people, which again, in many cases is a super manual process. And even in sort of businesses where that's not as bad as it might be, they're using email finder tools on a sort of individual basis. So you
Yeah.
jump on a profile, you have a Chrome extension, say, okay, that might be this person's email address. Then I've got to take this somewhere else, send
Yeah.
an email, which is probably again a manual process, time consuming. Maybe you have some templates that you copy and paste from somewhere, send it out. Then you've got to go and log in your CRM that you've actually done that so that other people know, which you probably forget to do. And then you've got to set yourself tasks to go and follow up with them. So all of that process
Yeah.
is pretty insane when with modern technology, which has been around for many years, you can immediately have your market triggers delivered to you in a tech hub where it syncs with the rest of your data, and you're able to then quickly find out decision makers, and you're able to quickly reach out to the decision makers with essentially a couple of clicks. You've got the opportunity to kind of hyper personalize your outreach in that process, but then the entire process is kind of the loop is closed with that information being updated in your CRM automatically, your follow-up outreach being automatically sort of scheduled for you. So businesses at the moment who are going out with zero sort of lead generation or market intelligence software, and then a very manual kind of outreach and follow-up process are I mean, like at least one hand tied behind the back, if not both, against businesses that have got a more robust tech stack and are able to action that information well and
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah. So that tech stack then, I don't know if you're able to, but can you kind of name names of what perfect tech stack would look like then for a recruitment business? What kind of things do they need to be involved in? Like obviously we've all got LinkedIn Recruiter. I'd hope all recruitment companies have a CRM and an ATS tracker. But what are these like? I mean, I heard of is it Hairfish? These other kind of tech stacks that are going to be really valuable to a recruitment business that are going to completely change the game that they're just not even paying attention to.
Yeah, so there I guess, and there's probably a piece around the size and kind of maturity of the business and when it makes sense. So one of the main things when we first launched our business was we were very determined to give all of the recruiters that we helped to launch businesses a significantly better and more mature technology stack and a more integrated technology stack than they would typically pay for out of pocket. That was one of the key things that we wanted to do was give people sort of sequencing outreach technology. This is 4 years ago that we said, right, we want this end-to-end stack. And you probably look at this and say, I don't need that in my first 12 months of
Yeah.
operation. I can have my phone and a Google sheet and I'll figure it out. When I've got some money, I'll pay for it. We were very confident this will bring ROI really quickly. There's zero rationale to be saying, I could have access to everybody in my market who's hiring and when and how to reach out to them about it and make sure they never miss a follow-up and all of this stuff. I could have it at my fingertips, but I'll deliberately avoid it for a year and do this the hard
Mhm.
way. So that was very much a key part of our solution was we'll do it. And then the key bit obviously of our kind of commercial dynamic is you don't pay for it. We will absorb that cost up front because we're super confident this will generate ROI. But then there are tools that would come into play later down the line. So Hairfish is a really good example. Hairfish is a CRM automation sort of ultimately it's a platform that was
Yeah.
acquired by Bullhorn. Some other CRMs have kind of similar stuff, but it's probably still, in my opinion, if one of the best, if not the best. And that's more around running automations across your existing data set than it is about going and sort of accessing external third-party data. So that's again, there's 0 point in having that on day 2 when you've got 3 candidates in the CRM. But by the
Yeah.
time you're getting thousands of records in your CRM, by the time you've got a bit of longevity and it's been now 1.5 2 years that you've been running your startup, you're going to get the kind of historic, I guess, kind of way that people interact with their data is that there'll be a very, very small portion of their total, available candidate or contact base that they're engaging with at any one particular time in relation to like recent searches and live vacancies and current prospecting. It's a kind of,
Mm.
minuscule percentage of their overall data that they ever engage with. Other than that, they're probably just, if they're doing anything more than that, they might be spamming everybody with a sort of mass communication on a monthly basis just to do something. Whereas with platforms like Herefish, you're able to run automations with triggers where you say, great, if anybody, for example, who has previously interviewed at any of our clients hasn't had any interaction with our team within the last 180 days, we want to send a re-engagement sequence, and you can be, as complex or as simple with it as you like. It can literally be an email saying, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
runs automatically every time somebody goes over the 180-day mark. Or it can be a full-on automation sequence where you re-engage them and they provide updated information, their CV, their salary, their target locations, and that's written back into your CRM. All the records are updated. You can notify the contact owner saying, hey, these 15 candidates have just re-uploaded all their profiles, and 2 of them have said they're actively looking for work. So there's so much that you can do with automation once you have data.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like makes you wince to think that a lot of businesses out there will have all of this information. And if they were to go and audit it, they'd see bunch of candidates that are in our database have moved jobs in the last 6 months. We weren't there. We weren't involved in the
Yeah. Didn't
process.
know about it. Yeah.
Didn't know about it because we were
Yeah.
just looking at this very narrow band of our kind of whole contact
Yeah.
base. So
Yeah.
that'd be another great one to add.
Yeah. Yeah. So over the years, then you've obviously worked with a lot of recruitment businesses or businesses in general. What have you deemed as the top kind of tech that a recruitment company needs as an add-on? So obviously LinkedIn comes with it, CRM comes with it. What are like the top add-ons that now recruitment businesses are thinking, we need this tech as well because it's really going to leverage? Is the one tech that you'd think everyone needs this at some point?
There's a few. So I think kind of automate like outreach automation that integrates contact data sourcing is the key thing. So I think if you're
Yes.
using Lusher and Lusher gives you an email address and you've got zero automation beyond the fact that someone's told you that's the email address, you're missing a huge trick on that. So platforms like Sourcewell is great. Sourcewell
Hmm.
we're big fans of. Platforms like Apollo is a similar type of tool. There are some nuances between the two, but there are various different kind of automation outreach platforms that are
Yeah.
useful for kind of that full cycle piece. I would definitely say any platform that provides sort of market intelligence is awesome. So the most kind of broadly applicable ones, SourceBreaker is one that we're super fond of. Talent Ticker is another great platform.
Yeah.
Does something relatively similar. There's some overlap there to a degree in terms of functionality. So those are really important. So something that will tell you, hey, here's the movement and the opportunity in your relevant market space. And then something that will enable you to reach out to the decision makers associated with those triggers in a way that is quick and automated, involves follow-up, and feeds that back into your CRM. So there's no lag between your prospecting and your internal records. Those
Yeah.
I think are non-negotiables, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. On the flip of that, then this could be an interesting one. On the flip of that question, do you think there are technologies out there, there probably are, that recruitment companies spend loads of money on that are just not worth having? Are the ones that you just think, why have you just spent so much money on something when there are way better solutions out there? What are the ones that you think, yeah, it's good, but it's not gonna do the job in a sense? Are there any that you'd say, look, they're not the worst, but we can do better?
It's a really tough question because I personally think so much of how much value you get from your technology is in how well you use it. I mean that's the
Yeah,
most
very good
important thing.
point.
So we've seen this loads because we've introduced a lot of automation to businesses who said this is incredible. I never had these tools before. I used to work at X or
Yeah,
Y agency. We didn't have this. I always wanted it, and I've got it. And you can immediately become kind of over dependent on your automation to do everything for you, right? And
mm,
so what we always kind of try and push people towards is your tools should enable you to do exactly what you would do anyway, much faster and to a much higher standard of consistency. So if you were, an incredibly talented salesperson who never dropped the ball on anything and you were phenomenally hardworking, this is what you would do. So automate
yeah,
that. Whereas if you say, well, what would I do if I send the same exact email one after the other to 400 people if I sat and wrote them manually? You bloody well hope not, right? But automation kind of makes it easy to go, there we go. I'm sure that's good enough.
yeah,
And then wait for the replies. Would your follow-up email to people just be, would you sit and write to 300 people just checking in any updates?
Yeah,
You
no,
probably
no.
work a bit harder, right? Would you get on the phones? You probably would. So one of the key things is, yeah, lots of companies are chucking money at automation and sitting waiting for the
Not
money to roll back
utilising it.
in. They're not using it properly. And so like things like Sourcebreaker is another example where it's really easy to set up a sort of first set of sort of lead alerts on Sourcebreaker's platform and then say, we're just getting leads from the same giant companies in our industry, but you've got to do the
Yeah,
work to go in and filter it, stay on top of it, curate it, and ultimately you can get it to a point where it's phenomenal. It's doing exactly what you would do if you
yeah,
had 400 hours available to go and scour all sorts of pages.
yeah,
It has to be like fine-tuned. So there's no platform that leaps to mind where I think people are
yeah,
chucking money away. I guess the one example of that is you've got there's some significantly higher priced technologies that are probably less recruitment focused, but they're used by a lot of recruitment companies. So things like Crunchbase, PitchBook, and sort of market data access. Those can be really expensive, and they can run to 20, 30,000 pounds a year. Like labor analytics platforms is a similar thing. And again,
mm,
there, if you don't leverage that really intelligently into your strategy, if you don't know how to monetize the data that you're getting access to,
yeah,
that's another thing that a lot of people can sit thinking, Christ, we just threw, a quarter's
yeah,
budget away on something that we barely use or we haven't got much ROI from. So you need to really think about how am I going to monetize this because the outlay is massive.
yeah. So it's one of, so all tech is very probably very good and going to be really useful for a recruitment company, but it's actually dependent on the team and the people. If you're going to make the effort to utilize it properly, then it won't be a waste. But if you've just got it because you think it'll be a cool tool, like people, you need to have that significant training on it, making sure that people really understand what they're using and why.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so I
definitely.
think like if you look at stuff like Google Homes and Alexas, you got some people like, well, I bought this super intelligent piece of technology. What does it do? Nothing. I use it to like ask it the time or to set an alarm or ask for the weather, and that's it. And you think,
Mm,
yeah, but actually, smart home connection is a phenomenally complicated thing. You can set up routines on this thing where it brews your
yeah,
coffee, gently turns the lights on, like warms your car engine, whatever you need it to do. Like, there's 1,000 things you can do with home automation, but you have to sit and do the work. Otherwise, yeah,
yeah,
it will just like you
just
know
sit there.
just sit
Yeah,
there and
yeah.
mishear you. So I think it's similar with your recruitment stack. You need to think about the workflows that are actually going to create value.
Yeah, yeah. So, just out of interest then, have you had or seen or been part of a journey where you've had some real success stories from a recruiter's performance involving kind of your products go from mediocre to kind of top biller? Is there a success story where you can be like, look, after they really utilized this, they were then billing this much money? Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
I mean, yes, I guess like we don't obviously, I guess in the nature of our business, we don't really partner with anybody who's going to be expected to be mediocre. So usually, I mean, usually, the people that are coming onto a platform, they're strong recruiters. They've got strong recruiting backgrounds without necessarily kind of a full and really, all singing, all dancing technology stack. 100%, we've seen a massive uptick in performance. I mean, we've seen people win customers on the back of their automation technology in the first couple of weeks that they've gone live with their new
Oh,
business,
amazing.
where they've been
Yeah,
able to say this lead came in, didn't know this company. I went straight over here, found a decision maker, added them to an outreach sequence, got a bite back, and we filled the role. And we have people. And another thing that we haven't talked about is actually full on LinkedIn automation. So tools that will automate your connections and your messages to new connections 1 hour, 1 day after they've connected with you, which again can be used horrifically badly. I spend a lot of my day fending off what are obviously automated outreach from people that have got no idea how to use tools. But
yeah,
when they're used well, we've had people that will say, in the first month, I had, 3 very senior candidates book in directly to my calendar, one of whom I went on and placed, and it was a £30,000 fee. And essentially, as far as I'm concerned, it landed out of the sky. But
yeah,
they put the work in initially to say, I build my target audience, I build really nice personalized outreach that's kind of built on a segmentation strategy to the people in different buckets, and it resonated, and these people want to come back in and chat to me, and they're absolutely within my wheelhouse and I can help them out, and
yeah,
everybody wins and we make money from it. So for sure, I mean we see it
yeah,
every week. um
yeah. just goes to show that like you can be an amazing recruiter, but without the real tech stack and a good tech stack and utilizing it properly, you can be even better than what you already are. You can be a good recruiter with barely any tech stack around you, making money great. But actually, if you've got X, Y, and Z and you utilizing it, you can do so much better and do it faster as well. Yeah, it's a no-brainer, isn't it, really, to have
Yeah,
a
it
good
is,
kind
and
of
like,
tech
and
stack.
we've had some funny conversations with people that we've helped to launch where they've sat, during a product demo, and they've been wincing, going like, I feel bad about what I've been making my teams do for the last 5 years
Yeah,
because we do all of this manually.
yeah,
We like
yeah,
we spend all of our sort of management efforts lashing people to go and do these things and not forget stuff.
yeah,
Just just
yeah.
just automate it.
No, so feel like you obviously keep your ear quite close to the ground when it comes to tech and upcoming techs and things that are going to benefit businesses. There any kind of sneaky little things that you'd like to give a heads up of what's up and coming? Are there going to be some new tech stacks that would be amazing for recruiters? Any shout outs?
So specific like product shout outs, no, but there is a whole new universe that I think that is going to appear very soon, which is going to involve even more connection among the automation steps that are currently living within separate products. So
Mm,
at the moment, there are platforms that can provide market intelligence and market sort of triggers and that sort of data, and that's where they stop. There are tools that can help you search for specific people in specific companies, and that's where they stop. There are some
yeah,
that can let you find those people and what their contact information might be, and that's where they stop. There's some that can let you find the people, find the contact information, and reach out to them, which we're currently using and is awesome. And it's a huge upgrade on what people have used, for a while.
yeah,
I think the next thing is stitching all of this together, where you're able to much more seamlessly say, great, here are the organizations, for example, that within the last couple of weeks have just highlighted that they might be on the market for a new chief data officer, let's say, or a building a
hmm,
data team. And within those organizations, here are the people that are probably behind those projects based on
yeah,
parameters that we've set, like, we're interested in the CTO or whatever it is, and here's their contact information. And then ultimately you can decide as an organization, do we run this on a completely automated footing, right? So we have outreach content that if this, then these people, we say this, bang, go, and we sit and wait for the replies. I think that's already happening in loads
yeah,
of industries across SaaS, where the kind of SDR function is basically fully automated. There are some massive cons that come along with that. There are some pretty big pros as well. But I think that's the next step, is
yeah.
joining the dots even further.
That would be a dream. Yeah, definitely.
It's already happening.
Yeah, yeah,
There's already products that do it. There's already consultancies that build it. There's a lot that kind of comes out of the woodwork when you try and bring all of it together. Not least, sort of, there's a big deliverability headache when you're looking at massively scaling your email outreach. But I think that ability to kind of just further automate the process, because again, at the end of the day, it's just, what would you do if you did it manually? You would go and try and find companies in these situations. You would then go and find these people. You would then go and try and find how to contact these people. You would then reach out to these people. If they didn't come back to you, you'd do it again.
yeah,
There's not much rationale now for why you would want to do all that manually.
yeah. No, definitely. So just one last question that I had was when someone sets up a recruitment business and say they come to you and they want your support of how to set that up and what to involve, they obviously come to you with an idea of what's needed. What's the tech or the process that people always forget about that's actually really important? Because so I know you deal with that kind of payment side of things as well. What is something that people think, I didn't even think of that when setting up a business?
Um, Christ, that's a big question. Yeah,
Probably loads of things.
there are loads of things, yeah, and I guess we've set up co-founder teams, we've set up individuals, we've set up people that are taking equity investment financing, we've set up people that are self-funding, we've set up people in the US, in the UK, across Europe, in Dubai, so it's huge.
Yeah.
I think most people, I get most common questions that we get obviously there's a massive piece around non-competes. So
Yeah.
that's huge. A lot of people are really in the dark around what their non-competes actually say and how much of what's in their contracts are actually enforceable. That's a huge part of it. It's not something that they haven't necessarily thought of. I think in the case of co-founders, one thing that people very rarely think about is what should be the contract I have with my co-founder. So what happens in this business if 9 months in, one of us just decides to part-time it, go play golf all the time, and then
Yeah.
starts,
Okay.
doing currency trading and barely shows up for work, but they own half the business. What's the provision against these kind of things? Or what if somebody falls ill? So in the
Yeah.
setup process, there's some legal nuances which are kind of important, and people can sometimes just kind of ride roughshod over and then regret it
Yeah.
later. Um, on the tech side, I mean, realistically, I don't think we've ever sat down and demoed our platform and had somebody go, that's what I use now. Plus we have this. So we're
Yeah.
typically giving people far more technology and automation than they've ever used before. And we
Amazing.
are, I guess we've got an ear to the ground across our community as well of what our founders are using, experimenting with. We're regularly kind of approached by other vendors. So we're always looking for anything that people are doing manually that we think there's a tech solution for. Even
Yeah.
down to like your LinkedIn replies. Most people will still sit and write out multiple times a day, hey, thanks for getting back to me. Great. Shall we find a time to talk? Here's my availability and stuff like that. Just correspondence thousands of times a month. There's tech that can do that for you and can immediately automate that across your whole business. And there's so many kind of bits and pieces. So I think it's more
Yeah.
a question of people are kind of a bit rabbit in the headlights about, I know there is a lot of technology that could be helpful to me. I
Yeah.
absolutely haven't got time if I'm trying to set up a company to go and explore all of these platforms,
Every
sit through
single one.
demos, compare them, compare features. So I think that's one of the things that for us has been really helpful is being able to say, we've got a vested interest for our customers in giving them the best tech that we can, because that's how we succeed.
Yeah.
And we also have kind of gone, done our research in trying to find technology that's as broadly applicable as possible, so that
Yeah.
there are so many solutions that this works if you're in this niche, or this works if you do this type of recruitment. So everything that we provide to our customers, we're 99.9% sure is valuable, whatever type of recruitment you're doing, whether it's exec search or contract or perm or, sort of productized solutions. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the main one, is that people just think, I know there's so much out there, I haven't got time to go and investigate it. I'm a bit worried that I'll set out to see with a tech stack that turns out to be wrong, turns out to be not valuable, looked shiny when I purchased it, and now I'm regretting it. And then the other kind of biggest failing is probably building a business where you have a technology stack that isn't fit for purpose down the line. And we see this quite a bit as well, where people will sort of set out on a course where we can see this isn't scalable. Like the tools that you're using now, they might get you through the first year and a half, but then you're going to start to run into all sorts of limitations. And it could be stuff you don't see coming around, like reporting and analytics in your
Yeah.
CRM of choice. You suddenly say, it wasn't a problem, it's just me, but now I need to really get on top of this. And you suddenly realize the tools I'm using can't show me this.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
gaps in my sort of visibility. So reporting probably is the other key thing.
Yeah. So I think we use OneUp, is it? A lot of the reporting comes through OneUp. But again, a lot of reporting, depending obviously on your CRM, it can also be built in as well, I think, a lot of it. So yeah, no, I mean it's quite apparent, isn't it, that having a tech stack that is scalable, and I think that's maybe where people do make the mistake, in that they just go from what they know but don't think about the scalability. If it's going to be your own business, you want to think of the long term, and you might be thinking, oh, the first year or two, but really, like, push yourself and think a bit bigger, like, where could this be in 5 years? And if I want it to be 5, 10 years, really kind of just go for it and utilize the tech that's out there, and it will go there quite quickly.
And I think if you exactly that, and if you use your technology well, then you'll see the biggest impact from it as you start to scale your business. And if you build a
Mm.
business with limited technology, where a lot of things are done manually, and you're very dependent on each individual person in the business to be, super organized, very successful kind of salesperson and or recruiter at the same time. If it's very dependent on individual delivery, as you try and scale that, it's hard. And if you then bring in technology, it's then disruptive and distracting. Whereas if you grow your business on really solid tech foundations, then they become
Yeah.
more and more of an asset, because they help to kind of standardize what good looks like. They help to share best practice. They help to ensure that like nothing is left to kind of memory organization, and they help to, surface the right kind of actionable opportunity for your sales team, however big your organization grows. Whereas if it is
Yeah.
done on a kind of person by person basis, and then you try and move that into a slightly more technology driven structure, there's a lot of
Yeah.
moving parts there. So I think building on a really good foundation is definitely a good investment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for jumping on Recruit Tea. I would normally ask you to rate your coffee, but hopefully one day I will have the chance to make you a coffee.
I'll make my own coffee, and I'll probably rate it a 1 out of 10, and it's not going to go much above that, but I'll take it.
No, well, thank you so much, Edmund, and hopefully speak again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me on Recruit Tea. If you don't already, please do subscribe and leave us a review. And please do join us next time on Recruit Tea for some more gossip. See you soon.